All right, so I had a good video planned and I recorded a lot of stuff. I recorded like 40 minutes of content yesterday, and a lot of it I didn't want to use, so here we are. So essentially yesterday I went out, started making videos. Started out as a really good day, and then it got even crappier after that. So truck was working really well. I was having issues getting it to build boost though, so I ended up changing some of the vacuum lines and got it to build up to 10 pounds. I did a draggy 1/4 mile pull, and I'll insert that here. So truck ended up doing a 2.0 60 foot and making 10 pounds, and it did a 12.3 1/4 mile. So that's actually pretty good. 12.3 at like 112. So calculated on the Wallace Racing calculator, that comes out to about 650, 660 horsepower, depending if you're using the ET calculator or the mile per hour calculator. So 6,100 pounds on the truck. It's pretty decent. I'm pretty happy with that for being on 10 pounds. Another reason I'm doing this format is because I noticed editing the video that I'm very hard to hear. My voice is very hard to hear, so I think I need to get like a microphone or something to make the GoPro more usable inside this truck, because it's loud inside this truck. Let's see, I just kind of muscled it through that spot, So next, shortly after that pull, I drove down a street a little bit more and I got to a 4-way stop sign, and I started to cross the road, and the truck basically just came to a dead stop in the middle of the intersection and locked up. Well, it was fun while it lasted, I guess. Strange. Wow. Essentially, I ended up kind of just limping it off to the side of the road, and I couldn't get it to go above like 10 miles an hour in first gear, and it would start to lock up. I watched RPM, and it would go like 1900 RPM, and then it would slowly start to lock up and not shift into second gear. To get it off the side of the road, I kind of hammered the throttle a little bit to push it past that, and it got into second gear, and then I noticed it would drive fine. So I eventually figured out after some driving and testing that if I could get into the second gear, everything drove fine. So I did some highway driving, got the transmission temperature to come down, 3 launches with the trans brake. The trans temp was like 206. So I just drove it on the highway for a while and lock up to make sure it would cool back down. Got the trans temp down to like 120 just to make sure that it wasn't gonna lock up again or test it. And I pulled off, went through a roundabout, and it started to lock up again. So I came home, let the truck cool down a little bit, started working on the igloo with the family, and that's turning out pretty slick. Probably waited about 2 hours, and then I took the truck back out again. Trans temp was back down to like 90, 100 degrees. It was cooled off nice. And I took it for a drive, and it wasn't doing it at all. Until I did another trans brake launch, and then next time I rolled from a stop, it started to lock up again. So only thing I could think at the time that would be like tuning related was my tire diameter was wrong. So I came home and I changed the tire diameter, and then this happened. So it's a little bright, holy cow. I didn't bring my camera, so I wanted to make this video. I'm trying to replicate the issue now, and I can't do it. Temp is at 176. I did a couple like trans brake launches, and now I can't replicate it. So all I did was I changed my tire diameter, thinking maybe it was like an issue with the shift points, and then it stopped doing it after that. It did it one time, and then it stopped completely doing it, and then I changed the settings back to the old tire diameter that I had that was the wrong size, and now it won't do it at all. So I'm kind of confused. Trans temp's at 180, so I don't think it's a temp issue. Try it again, and it just doesn't So weird, I couldn't replicate it. I tried both the parameters. The trans temp was hotter than it was when it started. I did a couple other trans brake launches after that and couldn't replicate it at all. I spent probably 20 minutes trying to replicate it in different scenarios and couldn't get it to do it. I haven't driven it today, but hopefully it just stops doing that. So I have no idea what's going on with that. Only thing I can think is that there's like maybe a cross leak in the transmission where it's applying second gear while it's trying to shift out of first gear. So it's almost like when the RPM gets high enough to the point where it would shift into second gear, it's like it's starting to go into second gear and not releasing first gear and just completely binding the trans up. And you can see a couple times in there, it's like slamming the thing to a dead stop. It's kind of weird. So I'll keep plucking away at troubleshooting that stuff. Hopefully it doesn't get to a point where I have to pull the transmission back out again. I'm still kind of brainstorming what that could possibly be. I don't feel like it's tuning related because it does drive perfectly fine. So it's probably something with maybe like a cross leak in the transmission or like a case cracked, or one other scenario that I thought about was, if you remember when I installed the snap ring for the intermediate snap ring on the transmission, it was that full snap ring, the full loop snap ring, the spiral lock snap ring, and it was kind of like, it had like two positions, out or in. Okay, so one interesting thing I found about this ring, and I don't really know if this is good or bad, but it does kind of rock back and forth. So now if I lift this up, and then I can lift on the center, kind of snaps. It's like going like this, and then you push it and it snaps back down, and then it snaps back up. So I wonder if over time that all that rocking would be bad on the lugs. See that? So I'll leave it in there and I'll report back with any issues, but just something that I found. I did make sure there was enough clearance. It was like 70 thousandths clearance, and it wasn't touching the pressure plate when it was in the in position, but that's the only thing I could think is that maybe that thing is like in and somehow starting to put some tension on the intermediates early, or there's something with the fluid that's trying to make the intermediate come on early or something like that. I did notice it seems like it wants to do it when it's above 150 degrees, and in the tune it's basically maxed out on pressure above 150 degrees. So I don't know, I'm still trying to figure it out. But that's not all. But wait, there's more. When I got home, it's past all that, I couldn't replicate it, so just came in for the night. I was standing in the kitchen, eating some pizza, and all of a sudden I heard this psh. So I run outside, and the whole garage is like full of smoke. And the hood was closed, and there's smoke just pouring out. So that just happened. I was in the house, and I heard this thing spewing. I'm guessing it's something with the air conditioning, maybe. So I smelled it, I realized it was refrigerant, but it still freaked me out because I didn't know if the line just burst or if there was a fire underneath it and it burned a line because it was smoky and it was steamy, so I didn't really know exactly what it was at first. And I did come out and throw the hood open, at least so I could see if it was a fire or not. That was my big concern because I just didn't know. Like if it's steam, not a big deal, but I did want to pop the hood and make sure it wasn't a fire, and I just go in the house thinking that it's a coolant line and then it's actually burning out here in the garage. So I did come out, open the door right away, front and back door, to get some airflow in it. I did have like a face covering on when I made the video. I know some of you guys right away said like get the hell out of there because I posted on Facebook right away. So that's what happened. That was my day yesterday. So looking forward from that, I did order a new hose. I found a new hose on eBay for like 20 bucks, so not too bad, $20 shipped. So what I'll do so I can still drive it is I'll take the AC belt off so it doesn't run the compressor. I am gonna get some like heat wrap stuff for the lines so I can actually wrap the lines. The way that the line broke, it did spray the refrigerant right into the blanket here, so it didn't really make a mess. It didn't really spray all over the engine bay, which is kind of cool. So what I'm gonna do, I think, is probably wrap the line, and I'm probably not even gonna put the blanket on it. There is a decent gap between the housing and the line. Yeah, it's probably, I just measured it, it's probably about that big of a gap between the line. And what I'm wondering is if that cheap blanket actually transferred heat from the housing to the belt, because it's not like melted in a big area. It's like a very specific spot where I think the blanket was touching. So that's kind of my thought, is that maybe the heat transferred through the blanket directly to that one spot on the hose and eventually burned it up. So I think what I'm gonna do is wrap the hose, put the new hose on, wrap the hose, and I might look at different ways that I can route the lines. Now that I busted the system open, I might be able to reroute the lines in a different way. And I did buy an AC line crimper a while back, so that's always another option too, is I could crimp my own lines and then move it wherever I wanted to. I probably don't have to do that, because these cheap eBay blankets, they work to a point, but they do get really hot to the touch, and I'm kind of wondering if that was a combination of that thing rubbing on the hose and touching it, transferring heat directly through it. So anyways, overall, pretty good day. I was happy with a little part of it, but definitely some things to fix. I was gonna have problems on a new build, and getting it out running and driving, that's a big step. I already had it out multiple times without any issues. You're gonna find issues eventually, and we just found some issues. So we'll work through it. They're not big issues. If I have to take the trans out, I have to take the trans out. What else can I do about it? So, and whatever it is, it's probably something really simple or really minor that's causing this issue, because everything still works fine. It cruises fine, it shifts fine when it wants to shift fine. So that's it. Just got to figure it out. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.